bear cub walks into family's garden, hugs the dog. When he tries. When the dog attempts to bark and notify the owners, a bear cub enters the family's garden and gives him a hug. Although bear cubs are adorable, some of them may be hazardous as they grow to weigh over 1,500 pounds. You do realize that when they enter your garden, it's really scarier. A Slovenian family had the opportunity to learn. Watch to see what transpired when a bear cub entered a family's garden and gave the dog a hug as the dog attempted to bark to notify the owners on August 17, 2019. Shortly after noon, Margie Whitehead spent a pleasant summer day in Alberta, Canada, which she will never forget. Margie was outdoors enjoying the weather with her two beautiful dogs and getting ready for summer by watering her greenhouse's plants. Just as she was ready to go inside, she was startled by something and had to recoil in shock. Her gaze locked on three large grizzly bears. The bears simply stared on, utterly indifferent, while Margie's dogs instantly went on the defensive and barked viciously at them. But Margie was shocked by what she was seeing and froze. She was too scared to move at all. It was much more alarming because Margie was home alone that day. Her son and spouse lived in Edmonton, Canada, 3 hours distant. Unsure of what to do, Maggie hurried into the home and shut the doors after entering. She tried calling her beloved pets inside from the safety of the upper terrace. Even though the dogs are little, their bravery and devotion to defend their owner in the face of peril are unmatched. That didn't, however, lessen her fear for the security of her pets. She began recording the three bears scrounging about her garden and started talking to her husband on the phone. The dogs were uninjured as one of the baby bears approached them. Between hysterical screams of panic, Margie's husband instructed her to grab a rifle and shoot the bears. Her son called for a neighbor to come provide assistance. The neighbor discovered that the bears had broken into Margie's root cellar, where she kept all of the dog food, before she even got to her house. She was furious because the bears were eating her dog's food as she was trying desperately to get them back inside the home. When Margie discovered the gun, she became enraged. Perhaps she was feeling so scared and her body was pumping adrenaline. Or perhaps she just didn't want anyone to injure her pets. The bears were unmoved by the two shootings, trembling with dread and sobbing at what she had just done. She was shocked they didn't flee. The bears didn't notice the commotion or the drama they had unintentionally caused since they were engrossed in their own worlds. Shortly after, Margie's neighbor showed up, comforting her and helping to load the smaller of her two dogs into his car. Then, in the hopes that the automobile would frighten them away, the neighbor pulled up onto the grass and into the backyard. That was unsuccessful. He then continued to drive closer to them, shouting and firing warning bullets. The bears fled in the direction of a nearby brook after clearly understanding the message. Despite their close encounter, everyone was happy to be safe and undamaged. After bringing her two dogs back inside, Margie made sure every door was securely shut. At last, she could kick back and unwind. Or could she? Although the two bears had had enough of the creek, they were smitten by Margie and her two dogs. 2 hours later, the grizzlies came back, figuring they would give it another go at getting back into the root cellar for some dog food. Unfortunately for them, it was closed by now. Margie locking the door had irritated the bears. How could she not leave it open so they could consume the dog food? Really? The grizzlies threw a fit, displaying their enormous claws as they tore through the earth around the root cellar and savaged the side of Margie's house. As soon as Margie heard the ruckus outside, she looked out her window and grabbed her revolver. Taking a deep breath, she moved up to the terrace and fired off 3 more scary bullets. Choosing to give up, the bears ran out into the twilight. Remember that bears are a vulnerable species in Alberta, Canada, despite your natural desire to keep your loved ones safe. Margie still is really scared whenever she goes outside. She scans her surroundings with fear. What a terrible sensation it is to be afraid in your own yard, somewhere you should usually be able to unwind and not have to tread carefully. This marked the first sighting of a brown bear in her neighborhood in 29 years, so it should come as no surprise that all of her neighbors were extremely uncomfortable and uneasy. It was as the bear was racing across her garden that she last saw it. The bears have been visiting the decks of their neighbors to search for food. Bears that are fearful of people or that voluntarily approach them have a higher danger of hurting or killing someone. In order to prevent danger to the public, officers must constantly evaluate bears and decide whether to put them down. Officers from Alberta Fish and Wildlife then put up 3 traps in the surrounding region, and 4 days later, they apprehended the 3 grizzly bears. You should not flee, shout, or holler if you see a bear in person, in contrast to what Margie and her neighbors did. Instead, wave your arms and talk in a quiet, monotone voice to show it that you are a person. Because they are seeking food to put on weight before hibernating, bears are more frequently spotted in the summer. They were reportedly looking for oatmeal. Give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, and click the bell to be among the first to know whenever we publish a new video. Before we jump into our next adventure, the family logger. Although brown bears are among the world's most deadly creatures, they don't seem like they could melt butter. You won't believe what transpired after the dog of the logger household saw a bear. As the dog attempted to bark and inform the owners, a bear cub entered the family's yard and gave him a hug in May 2017. A little brown bear cub, hardly bigger than a feather, lived in a small Slovenian town. After his mother abandoned him, the young bear was confused and aimless as he made his way around the town when he came across a lovely garden that he wanted to check out. The tiny brown bear was contentedly ambling across the logger family's lawn when Matives, their Rottweiler, met his gaze. Just inches apart, they each fixed a depressing glare on one another. Matives was about to release his jaws in order to warn his family about an outsider entering their domain, but the cub jumped over him just in time. The bear covered Matives with his fluffy paws and began to cuddle him, demonstrating to him that he had come in peace and posed no harm. Matives seemed to calm down after receiving the embrace, but not before he gave a loud enough howl to warn his family about the unfamiliar visitor in their yard. The Logger family then went outdoors to investigate the commotion. The sight of a young bear cuddling with their dog astounded the family. The cub appeared so innocent and adorable, but he was a brown bear, so they were at a loss for what to do. However, he was still a baby, and there were no other bears in the area. The family took a choice that would permanently alter both their lives and the cub's. After deciding to adopt the small bear, the Logar family gave him the name Mito Shreko, which means lucky bear. Each of them felt fortunate to have the other. Mito got along well with his new family rather fast. Before long, he was having a bear of a time rolling around in the grass and play fighting with Matives, his adoptive father. Now, they had their very own Paddington bear. The goal of the family's garden enclosure was to provide a permanent space where Mito could dwell with them in peace and safety. They requested permission to complete this, but the veterinarians and environmental inspectors informed them that it would be too risky to build the bear enclosure. The family rejected the alternative solution they had to give. The Logger family perceived their insistence on moving Meadow to an animal shelter where he would get adequate care as an assault on them. Meadow grew to be like a member of their family, and they were unable to stomach his departure. Over time, the family came to the realization that Mito was becoming too big, and even though they loved him, they felt it would be self-serving to retain him. Love is insufficient. Everyone in the family has to act in his best interests. They decided to take him to an animal shelter so that he could be cared for and have additional bears to play and make friends with. But things didn't exactly go as planned. Mito's enclosure was broken into the day before he was sent off to his new home in the shelter. How far away did he go? A bear kidnapped Mito. Everyone was startled and went in search of him right away. The animal shelter announced a €1,100 prize for information leading to baby Meadow's location, and the police became involved. Thankfully, Four Paws quickly located the small bear and brought it back safely. They grabbed him and put him in an orphanage for bears in Harghita, Romania, which gets ready to release the bears back into the wild. He is socializing with other bears and receiving excellent treatment from the best specialists there. He is now free to go about and live his life to the fullest. Soft Mato's charming disposition and the soft, fluffy fur prints he left all over the family's lives are memories they will never forget. Although they were quite sad to have to let him go, it was made much more bittersweet for them to see how content and well cared for he is in the shelter. If a brown bear was to stray into your garden, how would you respond? Leave a comment below to let us know. Until our next video, see you.